speaking with Bob Weissman, agency specialist, about people strategies today. So Bob, what do I need to know about people when I'm trying to grow my agency?
Well, Mark, in your agency, your people are your primary asset and candidly probably your biggest expense as well. It's the people who really make the difference. So unless you have a proprietary product or service or particular capability, which are still going to have to be driven by people, that's really what's the most important thing in what you do. And while I hear all the time from agency principals that they get hired primarily because of them, because of their personality. Right. And in fact, they are the personality of the agency, and that does work for them, but it's not a formula for growth or scale. For you to really grow and scale, you need to really cultivate your team, build your team, to do a lot of things that you already know how to do. So as an agency principal, one of the things that I believe is one of your primary responsibilities is retention, retaining your great people, and recruitment, recruiting great talent to come into the organization, because talent makes a difference. And being a communications company, which most agencies are, of course, you understand the importance of communication. So I believe in building your people strategies. Everything comes down to effective communication, sharing common goals, sharing common vision, making sure that everyone is on the same page. So as we begin to talk about retention, how do you keep your key players? Well, ultimately, being on the same page is what matters. So I oftentimes recommend a company meeting at the end of every month, once a month, to review what's important, to reinforce what the goals and the objectives are, and to get everybody going together. In that same vein, it's really important that your staff knows how they're being measured, how they're performing, and not just once a year in an annual review, but in fact much more often. I believe almost on a daily basis. But what I do is I recommend to most agency principals that we talk about things like quarterly goals and objectives. Now, these aren't salary reviews. In fact, they are performance reviews.
It's about the work.
It's about the work. It's how they're doing every day. They should know. And at the end of the day, unless you're a salesperson, okay, money matters, but it's not the most important motivator. What's really important to most people in agencies is recognition.
Yeah, I'm doing a good job.
I'm really doing a good job. It's all about professional growth and development. Am I learning new tools, new things? It's about the type of work that I'm doing, the type of accounts I'm working on, and the people I'm working with. So oftentimes when we talk about professional growth and development, we want to make sure our employees understand professional growth and development. So we foster that with things like lunch and learns. We encourage them to attend networking events. We encourage them to go to webinar, get more training. So it's not all about talking the talk, it's about walking the walk. Gotcha. And that's what your staff members need. Now, company culture matters. That's how you're going to retain, that's how you're going to recruit. And so when we talk about culture, it's not only your responsibility as the agency principal, it's everybody's responsibility in company culture. So having things like bowling days or going to the movies or doing a luncheon of some kind. Those things really matter.
Building that team cohesion.
It's all team. Everything is team. And then, of course, lastly, as important as geography, or where the heck are you located? Can people easily get to you, or is it a major commute? And I'm not a big fan of people working remotely or working, from home. Ultimately, I'm a real believer in knowledge accidents, the interaction of people in an office, and that's really how people learn. So that's when I talk about retention. It's a combination of many of those things.
Lots of factors to bring into play.
Absolutely. And now when we start talking about recruitment, okay, how do you recruit great talent? Well, needless to say, you got to have a hot agency. That really helps. Your positioning really helps.
The talent you already have attracts new talent that's like-minded,
Absolutely. And then, of course, it all depends on the type of position you're looking for and your compensation methods and so forth. So assuming you've done the resource planning that is necessary to determine whether you need full-time employees, FTEs, or whether you need contractors, then we go to the next level, which is, of course, defining what it is you're looking for. So it's writing the right job description, defining roles and responsibilities, so a new employee knows exactly what's expected of them coming into there. And then, of course, we go into the whole process of, what do you do? Can you hire a recruiter to do this for you? Do you have to do it internally? Where do I post these job offerings? Well, I certainly use the traditional means, if you would, of, Career Builder and Monster and Craigslist.
Right.
Many people are using social media in a lot of ways today.
Especially
LinkedIn
sure.
is a real major way of doing that.
Yeah.
And I strongly recommend you go out to the career development offices of many of the universities today, because believe it or not, they are more interested now in alumni than they are in current undergraduates who are working in their areas. And I guess the last thing I would simply say, of course you get into the interviewing process, which I always recommend phone screen first. I'm sure you know that. Before you do face-to-face meetings, have more than one person interview them, because you're not only measuring their skills, but you're measuring their cultural fit. Do they fit within the agency themselves? A lot of people look for people who've had agency experience previously. And I guess the last thing I would just say about staffing your group, I typically recommend interns, because I do think interns want to work for you, they want to learn from you, and it is a good way to try people out before you go.
A little test drive, you know?
Okay, it is. And so as we talk about our people strategies, needless to say, there's many, many, many of them, and each company has a different set of challenges.
Absolutely. So we're covering it in the general here. If somebody wants to work with you specifically, we've got your contact information right here. If they want to figure out how to deal with their particular people strategies, Bob Weissman, Agency Specialist.
Thanks, Mark.